Yes? Yes, I have one. This ᵯᴑᴆᴆᴇᴆ character you met in Winterhold, is it true what she says? You know, the bit about students not failing so much as instructors failing to teach them. I mean, maybe it isn't my fault I can't cast a spell. Maybe it's the fault of the wizards who write those blasted spell tomes. So we've reached a consensus then. I'm not a hapless idiot after all. Just hapless. As am I. I do prefer being alive as opposed to that other thing. I say we scour the halls of the Arcanium in Winterhold. There must be a book there somewhere I can understand. Let's go. Should we get moving? It helps that my parents were troubadours and we spent every day around performers of all walks of life. Jesters, actors, magicians and bards, a wellspring of speechcraft that you couldn't help but drink from. It was the jester whom I gravitated to, a Nord man named Otero. Otero was always better with children than adults, probably because it's easier to make them laugh. You see, laughter was important to him. He said it was powerful enough to disarm any foe. The day I stopped wanting to be a jester, I was about 10 years old. Otero had taken me aside one afternoon to practice his new act. It was a great routine. In fact, I was laughing so loud I attracted an audience, a group of bandits. Well, I was terrified, but Otero rose up looking fat and half drunk and warned the bandits to leave or die. The bandits started roaring with laughter. When Otero made another threat, some were reduced to tears. They never saw the blade slide out of his sleeve. I never saw Fat Man act so swift. And that's when I learned how disarming laughter really is. Somehow I knew this was coming.
Greetings, Archmage.
Good to see Skyrim still has such fine people. You give an old man hope. Actually, yes, Archmage. I believe there is. We've been contacted by the Jarl of Falkreath. It would seem there's some sort of disturbance. From what few details we were given, it sounds quite familiar. I suspect that the power released by the Eye of Magnus was not fully contained and has coalesced in this part of Skyrim. I do hope you still have the Staff of Magnus someplace. I suspect you're going to need it. Well, yes. This is rather embarrassing, but it seems I've misplaced something. I can't find my alembic. I suppose I could use another one, but, well, it sounds silly, but mine has sentimental value. If you happen to see it, would you mind bringing it to me? My alembic. I need it for some research and can't seem to find it. Until next time.
Restoration is a perfectly valid school of magic, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Alright, let's see what we could... Yeah. To use fire, one must ignite the ethereal flint through the synchronistic channeling of... Oh, rubbish! This won't do it all. Next book. Ooh, this book has pictures. It seems easy enough, and it's a children's story on mud crabs. What sort of library is this? I think it's time we had a word with the librarian regarding quality control. Excuse me, yes, you, Orc. Do you have any spell tomes available for special mages?
If there's anything you need, Archmage, just let me.
Well, that went about as poorly as one could expect. I need to make a mental note. Orcs are surly. This is probably not the best place for me to learn anyway. Winterhold is a traditional institution. We need to find a place that's the opposite of that, like a college built by sewer mages. And be a paper mage? Oh gods no, I still have my pride. We just need to find a mage who's a little more unorthodox than the ones here. Do you know anyone like that? Really? Here I thought you knew everyone. Or was that Orlando? I get you two confused sometimes because I have poor eyesight. All kidding aside, I'm sure that person is out there. We'll find them eventually.
I'm Mr. Groshub's apprentice. While I've been trained in the library arts, at the moment, my duties are rather limited. There isn't much that Master can't handle already. I'm more of an understudy, someone who takes over if and when he retires. Which, at this rate, will be anywhere between someday and never. No, and it's not an exaggeration. I know Master Groshub looks old, well, because he is. Way too old for an orc. The rumor around here is that he's immortal, as in he measures time by the era. Which means unless I start a competing library, I'm stuck being an apprentice forever. Well, I meant it as a joke, but if you say so. The Arcanium is a very prestigious library, with many of its books going back to the Second Era. The more delicate tomes are kept under lock and key, but you're welcome to browse the outer collection at your leisure. Master Groshub has a list of books unfit for the collection. Frivolous works by academic standards, but still interesting reads. Talk to him if you want more information. Recently, I've been tasked with updating the college dictionary, which is a thankless but important job. Dictionaries are critical tools for preserving language, and they allow future generations to communicate with their ancestors. Yes, adding a single word can result in having to replace an entire section of the dictionary. I could shorten some of the other definitions so they fit on the page, but Master wasn't thrilled with that idea. I don't know if he was angry at me for taking shortcuts, or suggesting I abridge his research. Maybe both. Not necessarily. Master says spoken language is a living, breathing organism, always evolving and shedding old skin. In contrast, the written word is both living and dead. It's filled with babies and grandparents. My job is to introduce you to them. Just one. In the interest of efficiency, Master insists that I only make updates when there are at least 10 new words worth adding. Well, if he's going to be so rigid about it, I'm going to speed the process by developing some of my own. As much as I appreciate it, only a trained librarian is allowed to introduce new words into the annals. Sure. You know how people use animals as verbs or gerunds? Like ferreting out, or squirreling about, or wolfing down? Well, I thought, why not apply the same logic to trolls? I find trolls to be very fierce, but honest creatures. The way I see it, trolling could mean stating your opinion, but with honesty and passion. You know, the same way a troll fights. That's because it's still fresh. It takes time for these things to really sink in. Just the one. Let's just say Neri and Faralda are having Sergius enchant more than just items. I don't even want to imagine what kind of lessons you're referring to, so I won't. Just the... Neri and Faralda are Altmer. They may not look it, but Sergius is probably half their age. Just the one. Right. I probably shouldn't be spreading gossip. But you did ask. Alright then.
Wow, that's some really heavy armor you got there. If it was any bigger, it'd be wearing you. You know what they say, timing is all about something or other.
Watch over the souls of Aetherius, so that the word may triumph over the serpent. And we may live in a world where champions can love his children once again. Greetings, pilgrim. Do not let me stand in your way. Pray to the stars that your mind be swift and your burdens light. But remember, the steed's blessing will only grant those attributes to the body. The stars are the heavens, and the shooting stars are pieces of Aetherius fallen to earth. That is why those who practice the arcane often pray to the stars, and not the gods. Some say the doomstones like these are built from the fragments of stars, much like the Iliad stones of legend. And thus these stones, mage or steed, lover or thief, represent the very provenance of magic. But my apologies for prattling on, stranger, as I've not yet introduced myself. My name is Valgus, a healer who follows the stars. It was war, my boy. Wherever there are wounded, I will be. I journeyed to the various military camps across Skyrim to offer my assistance. Radas and Sundas, however, you can find me at the Temple of Kinnereth. I offer what I have learned on my travels to the temple healers, so that they may spread the knowledge to others. They say a restoration mage can save more lives by teaching the principles of his craft, rather than practicing them. I aim to do both. I was born in Skingrad, my boy, near the southern border of Cyrodiil. You speak the truth. All my life I've been surrounded by death. Your passion is misguided. War and death are not acts of virtue. When I was young, my father told me to kill a man is an easy thing, and during those times it came easy for most. But to heal a man, that was difficult. And that was something all good men should strive for. Sadly, I did not discover the truth of his words until I was stricken by tragedy. Such are the stumbles of youth. We do not heed sage advice, but rather, we allow our mistakes to confirm his wisdom. My wife. We had married just before the war began, after the Empire had lost the southern provinces to the Thalmor. Everyone knew the war would come north eventually. I picked up a blade. She opted to forge one. I never thought I would be the one to mourn her. But don't feel sorry for me, my boy. It happened over 30 years ago. More time has passed since her death than she spent among the living. My apologies. It's not a story I wish to share this time. It was that Lord I offer. They say a restoration mage can save more lives by teaching the principles. I have always been a bit of a romantic, and that is why I'm conflicted. Part of me believes that true love comes once in a lifetime. There is another part of me, however, that believes love is more than childish fancy. That real love is built over time, and time spent together. Lenora was my first love. And in truth, it was a love that had yet to reach full bloom. We were married so quickly, as it was the Nord's way, and as a young and compulsive man, I was in no mood to descend. Sometimes, I wonder if it's the manner in which we departed that is the cause of my attachment, and not the time we spent together. But when I try to recall those memories, those days when we were happy, it all seems to blend together like a forgotten dream. Ulfric suffers from the same disease that afflicts all men of power. Ambition, greed. In the end, it drove him to murder. Not just of King Torg, but all the soldiers, families, and victims of his tyranny. As such, I seek to heal the wounded, regardless of what colors they wear. I would, but the Stormcloak's a warrior of letting an Imperial, especially a former Legion soldier, tend to their injured. It's unfortunate, but some wounds can't be healed with mere spells. Well, magical talent runs through my family, but I was intent on becoming a soldier. Thankfully, my father was the type to encourage his sons to pursue their goals, even if he quietly disapproved of the pursuit. No, he was proud of me, but not my vocation. I never realized this until after the war, when I asked him about restoration. And that's when I saw his eyes light up for the first time. The old man had no idea what he was in for. I consumed book after book, tome after tome. I outlasted the oil in the lamps, and the wax in the candles. My father wondered if he should have taught me alteration instead. At least then, I could read by mage light. Every mage, regardless of the school they specialize in, knows a few destruction spells. For me, that was especially true, since I vowed to never again touch a sword. And of course, I did eventually learn to use mage light at my father's behest. I'll do my best to heal your wounds, as well as my own. I also possess knowledge in wards and stoneflesh. Preventing injuries, after all, is far more efficient than healing them. Not many, I'm afraid. When I'm not visiting the camps, I spend most of my time reading. Back in my soldier days, though, I did enjoy a brawl every now and then. If only all wars could be settled with sport. On occasion, the warrior is an important constellation. Athletics, competition, all of this is vital to developing the next generation. Matches allow us to cultivate that spirit without resorting to lethal violence. You fight hard and fight clean, and when it's over, you embrace your opponent as an equal. It's a noble pursuit. I'll do my best to teach you, as my father did me. Your current companion seems more than capable. You will be doing yourself a disservice by favoring me. I myself learned how to better close wounds by reading tales like that of Princess Talara. Still, knowledge of the spell itself always comes by tome. Rumarin, I'm sorry. Books offer hints at how to improve at restoration, but it would take a 50-volume epic to teach you even the simplest spells. The tome is still the best way to learn. My advice is to just keep at it. Don't rush. It'll come eventually.
So you're saying I need to work hard and study to achieve my goals, but what if that goes against everything I stand for?
And I'm afraid I can't help you.
Some say Rumarin is a feminine name, but I'm not a girl, I just fight like one. Well, not that I would advocate running from a fight. No, best of... That's where the knife ears come in handy. Or was it crocodile lips? Toad skin? I can never forget these infernal nicknames the humans give us. What I'm trying to say is that high elves are born with an affinity for magic. A head start, if you will, in the skill of hand-waggling. No, not unless by... I consider myself more of a blacksmith. You know what they say, second time's the charm. Or was it the third time? Does that mean this next one will be a failure too? Of course he can. And if he can't, well, it'll be his fault. I like Olivia's way of thinking. I'm right behind you. Looks like the people are out for blood. Does that make them vampires too?
A sharp mind cuts deeper than any sword. Your current companion seems more than capable. You will be doing yourself a disservice by favoring me.
Yes?
Oh, you must be the new assistant I've been asking for. I take it you've agreed to the terms.
I think you have the wrong person. I'm just here to learn a spell.
Then I think I have precisely the right person. I teach you some magic, you let me replace your brain with Dwemer gears and wheels powered by rodents.
Well, that doesn't sound too bad. Wait a minute, what kind of rodent?
I was thinking a hamster.
Absolutely not. Come on, let's go. This is obviously not the sort of mage, and I use the term loosely. That can help me.
Where did the egg go? What was inside? Oh, there was a great rumble outside this morning. Did you feel it? Surely it must have been a giant riding a carriage, or a flying ship. Yes, but that's far too ordinary. Maybe not yesterday, but now, very much so. Unless it was a water dragon, a dragonfish whose breath was steam. Of course, it's more fish than dragon, and more bug than fish. It feasts on wood, and its diet consists solely of mortal-made ships. Oh, I would never try anything like that. Won't even drink a bottle of ale. I need my mind absolutely clear so I know what I see is real. Oh, plenty. Although they all sort of relate to magic in one way or another. For instance, I was trying to build a more secure coin purse by trapping your gold inside a soul gem. Oh, yes. It was a bit tricky getting the conjuration trap to recognize inanimate objects as souls, but a dash of blood and harmonizing the resonance did it. The problem was getting the gold out. I tried enchanting a couple of wooden coins using the gem, but they lost the Imperial markings. Oh, that would work, although engraving them would be too difficult. You can't just use an imprint like with metal. But I've heard there are these beetles in Black Marsh, mirror beetles they're called, that learn to chew tough bark by watching their mothers. If we could train these beetles to chew in a pattern that matches a septum, no, it's brilliant. Oh, all the time. Especially at the college where magical energy is strong. Floating objects like books, soul gems, and silverware for one. You really have to watch where you're going or you might run your eye into a fork. Then there's the multiplying fruit. Master Dravis thinks the several hundred apples he found in his pillow was a prank. I think it was a rare form of spontaneous cloning. Clearly some type of plant-based magic, like an evolved form of alchemy. Of course. I bet in places like Valenwood there are all sorts of carnivorous plants that use magic to capture their prey. Like a plant with invisible fangs on its fronds, trapping birds and insects who stop to rest their weary wings. Or how about a talking plant who uses magic to mimic speech? A stamen is almost like a tongue. Then you get real close and the fangs chomp you. That is, if the mud monsters don't get you first. Plants must have some version of the undead, raised from the ground by magical spores and such. The field of unknown and undiscovered magic. It seems odd that there are only 5 schools. There should be at least 500. How else can you explain all the magical phenomena in this world? Doomstones, alchemy, and dragon shells, for instance. Those can't be categorized by any of the 5 schools. Yes, for instance, can you imagine being able to take courses here on Nord battle cries, metamorphosis, hiss sap? An institution like this should welcome all forms of magical study, as well as the occult. It's one of my dreams to dissect a werebear. All right then.
Don't worry about me. I'm in the best shape of a Slode's life. This mage has to be the one. I mean, it's not as if I'm some one-trick bladebinder wearing imitation robes. That would be a shocking twist. Really? All kidding aside, I'm sure that person is out there. We'll find them eventually.
Interest you in some training.
Speak while the sands are warm.
Out with it, fool.
I used to know this Dunman mage. Very heroic. Every now and then, though, he'd wear a
Out
thief's
with it,
costume.
fool.
I wonder what your vice is.
Why do you disturb me, mortal? I've nothing to discuss with you.
Knife. Yes. Book. Yes. Bucket. Yes.
I am Dagrilon, the greatest and most powerful mage who ever lived. But that was then. I live no more. No, you wretched fool. Death is more than a word. It is a cold hand of rotted flesh, hissing air as foul as a goblin's whisper. Life does not flow through this shell. It is as empty as your philosophy. No, worm, I did not. To call me a mage is to call the ᵯᴑᴆᴆ Tower a fortress, and the Red Year a fire. It is a testament to my prowess that I exist on the mortal plane, even as my body decays in death's hollow embrace. I did no such thing. The college's understanding of magic is as narrow as your vision. I trained under the order of the ᵯᴑᴆᴆ monks. Yet much like Mannimarco before me, I left the order and their miserable traditions behind to pursue a higher magic. Death is a poor substitute for life, mortal. But the void is a fate worse than both. There are some who say immortality is found in one's legacy. The blacksmith lives in every soldier who kills with his tools, every sword that twists in the belly of a man wrenching in pain. The writer's soul lives in the pages of a book, his words echoing to the unborn across eons of time. The mage's soul lives in his acolytes, and the dread in their enemies' faces as they squint through walls of fire. It is a lie, nothing more than the decay of the mind, making one last attempt to circumvent its inevitable demise. The decay will come to you in an instant, a sore back, a stiff neck, a fold of skin. Yet the process has been happening since the moment of birth. Only now does it choose to present itself. Like a fish scuttling on land, you flap your gills, your feeble mind attempting to grasp what is beyond your comprehension. Lichdom is a fool's bargain, for necromancers content spending eternity as skinless wraiths. With a sleight of hand, they control their corpse like an avatar, as their souls are bound to phylacteries. I did not prescribe to such cheap necromancer tricks. I sought the path to true immortality through the techniques developed by the ᵯᴑᴆᴆ monks. The ᵯᴑᴆs could send their voices across great distances, their voices manifesting as living ghosts in the ether of conjured space. It is even said that the ᵯᴑᴆs could disrupt the flow of time, moving freely in the infinitesimal space between this world and the void. I succeeded in achieving the opposite, to have my body held in stasis as time flowed around me. The question is not what, feeble mortal, but who. One of my servants acted outside of my will. The spell surrounded my body in a cocoon of lost time, at which point I would be invulnerable from all outside influence as time passed around me. However, in the instant I returned to the mortal plane, my body would be at its most vulnerable, as the soul sought to gain control of its faculties. The assailant knew this, but the fool was careless. The blow was struck as most of my soul remained in the void, and my body had yet to return to time. When the spell was interrupted, my body became trapped in slowed time. As such, it took 50 years for my soul to regain consciousness. It took 100 years for the dagger's wound to bleed out of my neck. 200 years before I could conjure movement beyond the slow of time. Yet, 2 centuries later, my body still continues to wait for a spell that will never finish and a time that will never resume its normal pace. Of my servants, there were 3 whom I trusted with guarding my body during the transfer. Fane the illusionist, Marius the warlock, and the cleric Irilyn, who herself left the Psijic Order to serve my will. Together they were powerful, but on their own they were nothing more than worthless sycophants. Such was the reasoning behind their selection. Yet only one managed to betray my will, and kill the others in the process. Ah, mortal, now you strike at the heart of it. For I am the one who put faith in the power of avarice, and my death is no one's fault but my own. Your pitiful mind clings to beginnings and ends, when the point of the matter lies between. It is decay that I find abhorrent, metal rusting, wood withering, skin rotting. This disease of time is what I aimed to rectify. Even now, as you stand here before me, mortal, the sweat pours from your body. The water trickles from the ceiling, cutting away the stone at your feet. The mold grows in the shadows, poisoning the air with its toxic spores. It matters not if the subject is a great man, a majestic palace, or a shrine to the gods. Decay will claim them all. Foolish thoughts hissed from a tongue that knows only youth. In time, mortal, you will look upon your reflection and see nothing more unnatural.
You ask for my strength, pitiful mortal, yet for what purpose do you wish to wield it?
You are weak, worm, and your Thuum makes you no more than a mouse with a kitten's claws. I will concede, however, that the strings of fate wrap around your wrists, although it remains to be seen whether you pull them or they pull you. Very well. Ask and I will accompany you, if only to see you fail.
Lose the weakling you have at your side and I will join you.
No, I can no more teach this worm magic than I can teach water to burn. Even if such a thing could be achieved, it serves no purpose. You ask that I devote what little time I have left to teaching a simpleton a few tricks. I say if he is not happy with his current existence, then I will be more than willing to eradicate it.
Some say Rumarin is a feminine name. But I'm not a girl, I just fight like one. No, it's almost as if I don't have the talent to be anything more than a blade binder. But that would mean I'm not perfect. A stunning revelation. I never saw it coming. We could try one last thing. Otero once said if you want to learn to juggle swords, it does no good to practice with wooden ones. This is going to sound crazy, but maybe if you pummeled me with a spell, my survival instinct will kick in and I'll fashion a ward. Well, I don't want you to actually hit me. I just want you to aim near my feet. You can do that, right? You mean do two things at the same time? And fashion a ward? It's almost like juggling. And I'm only half terrible at that. Let's do this. Alright, I'll just stand here, and you start hitting the ground with spells and such. Wait, hold on. Maybe you don't have to actually use a spell. What if I just imagined you were casting them? Like, I close my eyes and picture the fireball coming at me. It's almost here, and now I'm casting my ward and... Yes! I've deflected it. With so much force it seems, the fireball is now shooting off into the sky. It is literally burning a hole in Aetherius. Oh, now it's actually circling around Massa and hurtling back toward... It looks like that's Rorikstead. Oh, that poor goat. So much carnage. Ow! You hit me! I can't believe it! The pain! So much pain! And... wait a minute. I felt something else as well. In my hand. I think I did it. I mean, it was smaller than a juniper berry, but I actually felt the ward coming out of my hand. It worked. I think it was a lesser ward. Although you can't really call it that. Maybe a lesser than lesser ward. Or the least ward, but still a ward. Oh, let's not get carried away. I'm still a blade binder first. I'm just a ward binder on my days off. Perhaps. The real question is, do I want to? After what we just went through to learn this one, I'd say the answer is a resounding no. Look, I'm grateful for everything you've done. It's not the gift so much as the thought. Keep that in mind when I give you this paltry reward. Oh, and next time I get any bright ideas, just ignore me. But thanks for listening this one time.
Bucket, knife, book, inkpot, stone. No.
Yes? Already? We haven't even told each other our deepest, darkest fears yet. Mine's centaurs. There. Now we can go our separate ways.
Knife, yes.
Out with it, fool. What is it, mortal?
Inkpot, no.
Then lead. Do not waste your breath talking. You lead and I shall follow. Take what you must. I have no need for earthly possessions. Then let us depart. Shall we get moving? So you have. I am disappointed in you, worm. Pitiful.
Your narrow mind can only see an object for its surface. The artifact is something to be researched, not used. Any object that defies logic and transcends the conventions of our world is an object that must be studied. It matters not that an imbecile like Mercer could only see its utility as a key. Its true value was in the mechanism with which it opened doors, whether it altered its own composition or the locks to fit around it. Such a feat could only have been accomplished with magic, a magic that could be harnessed and applied to more useful pursuits. That is why I am disappointed in you, Worm, and in myself for not killing you sooner. So it is done. And what now, mortal? What will motivate you now that your nemesis is dead? Then you are a fool. You think to continue a journey that has already ended. Your quest is dead, Dragonborn. It rots in a shallow ditch. The bards are already standing over your coffin, composing your dirge. I am right behind you.
Sorry, lad. Got important things to do. Sorry, lad. I've got important things to do. We'll speak another time.
Lay waste to your foes, and let nothing go to waste. Burn your belongings, then let us depart. Ogmund should be tried and executed. Not for worshipping Talos, but for the crime of cowardice. Worship out in the open or not at all. So you... Escape Sidna mine. These pitiful mortals may be astonished, but nothing is inescapable. Not even death.
Honor to you, my thane.
The Nords squat in these Dwemer billets like common vermin. Proof enough the dwarves have left this rock for dead.